Welcome to Indian History Foundation course, and in this video we are going to discuss about the timeline and ancient history. As we all mentioned about the different phases of the Indian history, like the ancient period, medieval period, and the modern period. So in this video we will be discussing about the ancient history or the ancient period. So first one is timeline and the second one is ancient period. So let us see what are the important topics in this particular video. See, these are the three important topics that we are going to cover in this video. One is the timeline, another one is Indus Valley Civilization and Vedic Civilization. Three important topics. So, what do you understand by the timeline? So, because why we are actually learning about timeline? Because we use timeline at different intervals. Okay, when we learn about history, not in the polity part or in the constitution part, but while we are learning about history, we use this timeline. So, let us understand more about this timeline also. So regarding timeline BC and AD, and people also use BCE and CE. What is the difference? Why we are actually using this? The difference is very simple. BCE and AD, which is actually a contribution of the Gregorian calendar, or which is based on the Gregorian calendar. And BC means before Christ, and AD means Anno Domini, or in the year of Lord, which is actually a Latin word. On the other hand, the Jewish academicians, they prefer to use BCE and CE. BCE means before common or current era, and CE means common or current era. So that's the difference. So we'll be using BCE and CE in our session so that we will understand our timelines. Okay, basically the timeline is very important. While we are actually learning about history, understanding timeline is very important, significant. So we'll be using this particular usage, BCE and CE, in our sessions, in our particular videos. The next important topic is Indus Valley Civilization. Okay, Indus Valley Civilization. The time period, okay, the approximate time period of the Indus Valley Civilization, we can assume that it is 2900 BCE to 1700 BC. Okay, so that's a time period. And the another name of Indus Valley Civilization is Harappan Civilization. Harappan was a site which was actually discovered by the archaeologists. The first site which was discovered by the archaeologists during that time period, and during that time period that was the biggest or the largest site also. So that's why it got the name Harappan Civilization also. So why it got the name Indus Valley Civilization? Because it flourished on the banks of the river Indus. Very important. So we all know about river Indus. Okay, Indus river system we have, Ganges river system we have, and Brahmaputra river system we have. These are all Himalayan rivers. So Indus is also a Himalayan river, and this particular civilization which flourished on the banks of the river Indus. And why it is very famous? Why this particular civilization was very famous, or what was its speciality? It was popularly known for its town planning, the great bath and granary. All these are actually constructions, are their administrative system, which was unique. Okay, during that time period it was actually unique, because we are actually living in the present era, that is 21st century, and in many places, in many of our planning areas, we can see a lot of fault or problems. But during that particular time period, they have well planned. Okay, they were very good at planning the town, or how the cities should be, city in the sense the places in which they live, and how the houses should be, and how was a great bath, or how they have actually stored the granary. Okay, so the storage house for seeds and other grains, and also how they have built the granary. All these things were very unique. Okay, that's why it is special also. And another one is Indus Valley Civilization is the oldest civilization in the world also. And like today, trade and commerce existed during that time period. Trade and commerce, very important, because when we look at civilization, we know that civilization has some kind of inclination towards relations between the society, or relation between the people. So relations are of different types. So trade relation is one, and personal relation is another one, and emotional connections. Okay, the system of family, all these things are part of a society. So during that, in that society also, trade and commerce existed, and there were lot of proof regarding this, lot of evidences regarding this, that trade and commerce existed. And important sites, because in many of the examinations, the UPSC and other examination boards, they used to ask this question: what are the important sites of the Indus Valley civilization? Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, Lothal, Kalibangan, Ropar, Dholavira, Rakhigarhi, Sudkajandor, Surkotada, etc. are the major um, sites of the, or the cities of the Indus Valley civilization. So if you look at Indus Valley civilization geography, you can see that it flourished on the northern part of India, especially on the banks of the river Indus and its tributaries. So agriculture also existed, and how we have identified that agriculture existed? It's through the excavations only, the archaeological excavations only, we have identified that agriculture existed. And as per the evidences that we have received, we have understood that they have cultivated wheat, sesame, lentil, barley, peas, mustard, chickpea, etc. were produced, or were part of their agriculture, and millets were also there, found in different sites in Gujarat. So agriculture was very well organized during that time period, and presence of uniform script, numerous seals, and regulated weights and measures in a wide area. So that was also present. So whatever is there in a civilized society, we will be able to see in the Indus Valley civilization, that time period also. And they were also acquainted with the manufacturing and use of bronze. So bronze was also seen during that time period. So it's very important to understand that they also led a wonderful life during that time period. And mainly it's almost similar to what we are actually living today, but not like the modern gadgets or the modern technology as we are having right now. But within the limitations, they also enjoyed their life, and they were also having a wonderful trade and commerce, and they were also having agriculture, they were also having uniform script, they were also having the use of bronze and everything. So everything was part of their society. And how this particular civilization disintegrated, and many evidences which actually say that it was due to the natural calamities, especially the flood. Because of the flood only this particular civilization disintegrated. So while we are discussing about the history, this was the first incident, or the first event that we can actually look at to understand about India. And many things are there to discuss about Indus Valley civilization, their features, their agriculture, their religion. All these things are actually important, but because it's a very foundation session, and it's just an overview I'm actually giving about the Indian history, so we are actually consolidating all this information in a very simple and in a very short manner, so that you will understand an overview about the Indian history. So Indus Valley civilization was one of the event during the ancient history, or ancient Indian time period. Another important civilization was the Vedic civilization. So its time period is also very important, because after the Indus Valley civilization only Vedic civilization is there, and almost 1500 BCE to 5500 BCE is the time period of Vedic civilization. And what is the speciality of this particular civilization? That is also important. Veda. What do you mean by Veda? Veda actually means knowledge. Okay, the word Veda, it means knowledge. And during this time period only, we have seen many Vedas, four important Vedas. So here you can see the Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, and Atharva Veda. Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, and Atharva Veda. All these were composed during this particular time period. And this Vedic civilization, we can divide the time period into two. One is the early Vedic period, and another one is the later Vedic period. Early Vedic period and later Vedic period. And during this period only, these Vedas were composed. And the Vedas means actually a collection of poems or hymns composed in Sanskrit. So the language they used was Sanskrit. So how it is different? The early Vedic period and later Vedic period is different. Early Vedic period, the only Veda which was visible, which was actually existing, was the Rig Veda. It is the first Veda, or the early Veda, that we can actually see. And the Aryans, they lived in a land known as Sapta Sindhu, Okay, Sapta Sindhu, this is also connected with Indus. Okay, so you can see that whatever the river names here we are using, all these are actually tributaries of the Indus river, and they had their own names, okay, during that time period, and now also they have their own names. We are identifying it in different names during this current era, and during that time period it was actually identified in a another name, that is the Sindhu is known as Indus, then Vipash, which means Bias, then Vitasta, it's Jalam, Parishni means Ravi, Asikni means Janab, Shududri means Satluj, and Saraswati. These were the major rivers, and they say that Aryans, they were actually lived during the in the banks of these particular rivers only. Okay, they lived in the land known as Sapta Sindhu. Okay, then another one is the later Vedic period. During the later Vedic period only, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, and Atharva Vedas were composed. So these are later Vedas. The early Veda was the Rig Veda, and the later Vedas were Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, and Atharva Veda. The time period is very important. That is 1500 BCE to 500 BC. So maybe you can actually classify it as 1500 BCE to 1000 BCE is the early Vedic time period, and 1000 BCE to 500 BCE is the later Vedic time period. So let us see in the next video. Thank you.